So Alexander Usyk stops Rico van Herven in the 11th round and retains his heavyweight world titles. Let's talk about it. So this fight I wasn't particularly looking forward to, so much so that I didn't even make a prediction video for it. But seeing how the fight played out and the reaction that it's got, I thought I'd give my thoughts. So firstly, Rico did a lot better than many people expected, including myself. However, I do not share the same sentiment that many fans share, which is that Usyk was way behind on the scorecard. So I'll go through round by round and how I scored the fight and what I thought. So round one, I thought that Rico showed good movement. He was very light on his feet, a lot lighter on his feet than I expected. And that was the first thing I noticed in round one. I also thought, is he going to be able to keep that movement up at 260 pounds and not being, a traditional boxer, although he has a big background in kickboxing. Not really much happened in the first round, although Rico did land probably the only significant punch of the round and he won the round, which might have thrown a lot of people off because they were expecting a complete domination from Usyk, but Rico won the first round. Now, the second round is where I tend to disagree with most boxing fans and most scorecards I've seen, because I certainly thought Usyk won the second round. He landed some really good shots. He landed a very good right hook. Kind of as Rico was coming in, he kind of caught him with a sort of check hook, landed some good uppercuts. And Rico in the second round, unlike the first, was ball rushing sort of Usyk, and he was doing work on the inside, but it wasn't very clean. In the first round at distance, Rico was making it awkward for Usyk. He was moving a lot and he was trying to gain an advantage by getting his lead foot outside of Usyk, who's a southpaw. But he wasn't really landing clean in the second round. Go back and watch it. He really wasn't. I gave the second round to Usyk. Now, round three, I thought was a very close round. One thing Rico did in this fight, which I have to give him a lot of credit for, after Usyk was having success, he never got discouraged by it. Because a lot of guys, when they're fighting someone like Usyk, who's, has as well regarded as he is, once they start to have a little bit of success, the opponent just starts to, already start to accept defeat and kind of let Usyk take momentum of the fight and take control of the fight and then just run away with it. But Rico never let that happen, and round three was an example of that. I thought it was a closer round. Again, not a lot of clean shots from Rico, but he was using his size. He was ball rushing him, and he was doing a good job defensively. And I gave the third round to Rico, although I could have given that round to Usyk. I'm going to call that a swing round, but let's give it to Rico. So I had it 2-1 to Rico going into the fourth. The fourth round I thought was a clear Alexander Usyk round. I thought he hurt Rico. He landed some good uppercuts and he was starting to find the measure of Rico. And he was starting to let his hands go, because in the first three rounds, I felt like Usyk wasn't as active as he normally is in other fights. And, it is a little bit understandable because he's in there with the unknown. You don't know how he's going to react to your punches. You don't know how he's going to react to your feints. You don't know if he's going to counter you. So I felt like in the fourth round, Usyk had started to get his measure. He knew the sort of shots to throw. And he landed a very good uppercut that hurt Rico. He clearly won the fourth round. The fifth round I also gave to Usyk. I felt like he was just landing the cleaner shots, and the fight was starting to follow a little bit of the rhythm. Rico was being a lot more active. Usyk was being a little bit hesitant, possibly because he wasn't sure how Rico was going to react to certain things. And he was coming at Usyk at unorthodox angles that conventional boxers didn't. But I gave the fifth round to Usyk. The sixth round was a great round because Once Usyk racked up the fourth and the fifth, you thought maybe he's going to start to run away with this and start to dominate down the second half of the fight like he's done in so many of his fights. But Rico won the sixth round, and he landed some good shots. He was, unlike the first few rounds where he wasn't landing that cleanly, he was. And one good adjustment that he made was he started to punch with Usyk. So he kind of realized that if I initiate an attack, because Usyk's so experienced, he can read my attack. So he's just going to be able to avoid them easily. So he did something that a lot of people, if they want to have success with someone who has a massive skill gap over them, do. And that's punch with them. And if you've ever sparred someone who's got a lot more experience than you, you kind of just have to resort to punching with them and not really setting up too much offense because you're going to easily get read by the opponent and get countered. So at the end of 6 rounds, I had it 3 rounds apiece. I know a lot of people had it wider with Usyk just winning 1 round, but honestly, I think that was a lot to do with the perception going in and the scorecard that the zone guy had. I can't remember the guy's name, but he had this crazy wild scorecard of 5-1, and I was just like, well, I've got the fight even after 6. The 7th was another close round, but Usyk hadn't started to take control. Now, if you watch a lot of Alexander Usyk's fight, going into the second half, there's a massive discrepancy in the energy between Usyk and his opponent. This was one of the first times that there wasn't that discrepancy. Like, if you think of the Fury first fight, the AJ fights, even the Daniel Dubois first fight, Chisora fight, the first 6 rounds kind of play out like that, where it's a bit nip and tuck with Usyk and his opponents. You know, it might even be Usyk's behind a little bit. It might even be an even fight. But then once that 7th round begins, you start to see a decline in the opponent. That didn't happen with Rico. Rico was still there. He was incredibly fit. He used his footwork. And the 7th round was a genuine swing round. But I gave it to Usyk. So I had Usyk 4-3 up. Now, 8 and 9 rounds were probably Rico's best rounds in the fight. And I thought he won them. And I thought he landed good shots. And his physicality looked like it was playing a factor. It was almost reminiscent to the Chisora fight when Usyk looked a little bit uncomfortable. He was getting roughed up and he didn't really like the pace and the ball rushing, and he just couldn't really keep Rico off. So I actually gave both of those rounds. So going into round 10, I actually had it 5-4. And then the 10th round, again, Usyk hurts Rico. He hurts him, and I think if you watch the round back, it's clear to see. And I gave that round to Usyk, and I did sense a shift at the end of the 10th round. A lot of the commentators didn't mention it, but I felt like, okay, Usyk's now really it was 5 apiece, but I felt like Rico in that 10th round, after getting hurt and the way the 11th round began, I sensed the shift in momentum personally. The 11th round, I felt like Usyk landed a very good shot early in that round that hurt Rico, but maybe not a lot of people noticed it. Then Rico applied a lot of pressure. He came forward, he had his chin down, and he got whacked with a really big right uppercut. Fell face first through the ropes, got back up, either spat out his mouthpiece or his mouthpiece came out. I honestly can't remember which of the two it was, but his mouthpiece was out. So the referee gave, obviously time for Rico to put the mouthpiece back in, which bought him a lot of extra time. A lot. And he was hurt because if you see Rico, when he went down and he got back up, he was holding on to I've seen a kickboxing match of his where he does a similar thing, but the ref did say to Rico, come to me, like twice, and Rico never did it. Now, that could be inexperience from Rico's part, to be fair, because he might not be used to that. I'm not sure in kickboxing if they do a similar thing where the referee tells you to walk to them, but Rico never did it. He went, and I felt he looked a bit unsteady on his leg. He came back, and I felt like he made a bit of a mistake because he went right. You got hurt, you've been given this break. A lot of smart fighters will try to reposition themselves so that they stay off the rope or the corner. But Rico just went straight back there. And I just didn't really understand that. He got hit with a barrage of shots. Some people were saying he was firing back, but if you go back and watch it, to me, it looked like he was getting overwhelmed. And yes, he threw one punch back. But to me, that isn't the definition of firing back. Like, there's sometimes you're just getting overwhelmed in there and you're getting hit with so many shots, you just put a punch out there. And that's what it looked like. I did think the stoppage was early. I did, yeah. But I don't think it was the most outrageous stoppage I've ever seen. No. I've seen a lot of reactions to this and a lot of people claiming, oh, this was completely outrageous. While I admit I think the stoppage was early, I don't think it was outrageous. If you want to see an outrageous stoppage, see Ishmael Barroso versus Rolly Romero. Now that is an outrageous stoppage. To me, this wasn't. But I do think Rico should have been given the opportunity, given how he fought. However, I do think the shift in the fight had happened. And I don't think he would have won the 12th round. He may have survived it, but he still would have lost on the scorecards. I don't think the scorecards were outrageous. I know a lot of people are going to say that's controversial, but a lot of times in these sort of fights where one guy is such a massive favourite and the other guy's got no hope, when he does better than expected, people start to, give more credit than there actually is. Whereas if you actually go back and watch the fight, turn off the volume, just look at fighter A and fighter B and look at punches that are actually landing, I don't think you'll come to the conclusion that Rico was miles ahead at the time of the stoppage. I know that's the narrative. I believe it was Mike Coppinger's scorecard, which was just, in my opinion, outrageous. Don't get it twisted. I can understand if you had Rico up 6-4. I think the judges' scorecards were actually on point. It was either 6-4 Rico or 5-all. So, just to clarify, I had Usyk winning rounds 2, 4, 5, 7, and 10. However, I do think round 7 was a swing round. But I also think round 3 was a swing round, and I gave that to Rico. So what I normally do is I split the swing rounds evenly. So there were 2 swing rounds in there. I thought Usyk won 4 rounds, and I thought Rico won 4 rounds, and I think you split the swing rounds. Maybe you give both swing rounds to Rico, 6-4. I don't have an issue with that. That's just my opinion. Boxing is subjective. Many of you will believe differently. But yeah, just an overview. I think Usyk wasn't as good as he normally is. I think he came in at 233 pounds. And I think the element of unknown combined with Rico's awkward style gave Usyk the problems that he had. I also feel like with someone like Rico, because there's no real boxing footage of him, he's a very hard guy to prepare for, because especially when you're a high-level boxer like Usyk, who's, you're used to fighting guys who are high-level as well. So from your perspective, you're kind of looking at it like, I'm used to fighting guys who react in a certain way. It's almost like the concept of leveling, where, when 2 elite guys are facing each other, certain things that you do with that other elite guy work. But when you fight someone who's maybe several levels below, those same techniques don't really work. Basically, you've got to simplify it. And I don't think Usyk did that. I think he was overly tentative. He wasn't sure how Rico was going to react, and that caused hesitation. And essentially, that hesitation allowed Rico to bull rush him and have the success that he did. Whereas I feel like Usyk, after a few rounds, really should have just gone on the offensive. Yeah. And now you normally wouldn't do that against a high-level opponent because they can counter you. But Rico wasn't countering. All of Rico's shots that landed weren't counter punches. They were him initiating attacks. And the reason he was allowed to initiate an attack was because Usyk was hesitating. And Usyk was hesitating because he was unsure how Rico was going to respond. I say all that to conclude that I think if Rico fought a Moses Atalma or Daniel Dubois, he may suffer the same fate that Ngannou did against AJ. Yeah. Now, I'm not taking away from Rico's performance. I do think it was a brilliant performance. I think he executed it fantastically. However, there are glaring holes in his boxing style. Firstly, I think he's very front foot heavy. I think his punch technique isn't great. And I think he's bang open for an uppercut. And in fact, Usyk neglected the uppercut. And I think if he used it more, he might have actually hurt Rico earlier. Right, because he hurt him with the uppercut in the 4th and he hurt him in the 10th. I think if he fought Dubois or Talma, I wouldn't be surprised if they did a number on someone like Rico. Firstly, they're bigger punchers. And secondly, the cat's out of the bag. We know what Rico's about now. We know what he's about. But fair play to Rico. He came in there, he did what he had to do. Hopefully he gets another big fight. And maybe he proves me wrong. Maybe he goes in there against the Talma and Dubois and performs well there as well and gives them problem. I don't think he will. I think he'd get beaten pretty comprehensively. I do. I don't think he's going to be able to bull rush those guys the way he bull rushed Usyk. They're much bigger punches. They're much bigger heavyweights. And there's also footage of him now. So people know how he reacts to certain things. They know what his rhythm's going to be like. They know he's open to the uppercut. It's all out there in the open now. So I don't think he'll be able to replicate the success. However, who knows? Maybe it's different than what happened with Ngannou. I don't think so. I think if I'm any other heavyweight right now, I'm chomping at the bit to fight Rico, because the barometer for your performance is going to be how Usyk performed against him. So if you do a number on him, your stock is going to rise so much. So if I was a Moses Atalma, I'd be wanting to fight him. If I was a Fabio Wardley, I'd be wanting to fight him. If I was a Dubois, I'd be wanting to fight him, because you should do a better job than what Usyk did. But anyway, those are just my thoughts. I would love to know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to try to put more videos out there. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.